Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news.
The Stock Movers Report, your roundup of companies making moves in the stock market, harnessing the power of Bloomberg data.
Now, let's look at some of the stocks on the move today here in Europe. I'm Caroline Hepker and I'm joined by Bloomberg reporter Chloe Millay. Good morning, Chloe.
Good morning.
Let's think of individual shares and particularly Richemont, the luxury group, their sales and a big bounce for their stock price.
Yeah, absolutely. So sales beat estimates across all divisions for Richemont. And that was thanks to really strong demand in the US and China in particular. So that echoes what we heard from Burberry just yesterday. And then some of the other luxury names as well throughout that earnings season have mentioned this rebound in the Chinese market. So this confirms the narrative that has been building of recovery underway in the luxury sector. And Richemont seems to be a particularly strong name within that industry. So a lot of that has to do with its jewelry segment, which includes Cartier and Van Cleef, and that is doing particularly well. Jefferies analyst said that this kind of certifies Richemont as the fastest growing in luxury. Another positive thing for that company is also that there is progress on a tariff deal between the US and Switzerland. So the chairman of Richemont said this morning that a deal should happen in the next few days. And so that will provide that additional boost for that company. The shares in Richemont had already held up pretty well, regardless of that 39% rate that was mentioned back in August. So who knows really how far they could go if that challenge is removed as well.
Okay, very interesting on Richemont, the high-end luxury group, and how well it's doing. Siemens Energy now, which has raised its outlook due to strong demand for gas turbines, but also data center equipment.
Yeah, so Siemens Energy is a really big beneficiary of this artificial intelligence data center build out. So it provides some of the equipment for that. So that includes transformers and circuit breakers that are used in data centers. And then on the gas turbine side of things, it's also really benefiting from this rise in global energy demand. And that has boosted that demand for those gas turbines. Siemens Energy also said that the restructuring at the wind turbine unit was progressing quite well. So it's still unprofitable, but it expects now that division to potentially break even in 2026. The challenges there include some of the costs that are associated with the ramp up in offshore wind, low margin contracts in the onshore wind market, and then US tariffs also weighing there. So that is a little bit of a weaker division, but seems to be on the way to recovery, and all of that means that it has been able to hike quite substantially this medium-term outlook, and that has really boosted the shares this morning. It seems that all of this optimism, this stronger energy demand is really creating that momentum for Siemens Energy.
Okay. In terms of Lloyds Banking Group, that also seems to be having a difficult moment today on the market. Is that anything to do with the UK budget?
Yes, it does. So we have seen this morning a little bit of a sell-off across those UK banks, across those UK stocks in general, but UK banks in particular, and Lloyds was one of them and one of the worst affected. So a lot of that has to do with that possible, that U-turn from Rachel Reeves on the budget measures and those dropped plans to raise income tax, which that prompted quite a sharp sell-off in gilts, and then that week's in those UK banks. So she made that decision because of potentially some internal pressure within the party. So officials had warned that breaking Labour's election promise of not raising income tax could prompt those leadership challenges. And we heard earlier this week about those potential leadership threats faced by Keir Starmer. So that could be part of the reason why she decided not to go ahead with it. But now some investors are concerned about how she is going to make up for that revenue shortfall. This obviously also comes just a couple of weeks before the budget is actually announced, so that creates quite a lot of uncertainty, and we saw that reflected in some weakness for those UK banks, and particularly Lloyds, given how domestically exposed it is.
The Stock Movers Report from Bloomberg Radio. Check back with us throughout the day for the latest roundup of companies making news on Wall Street. And for the latest market-moving headlines, listen to Bloomberg Radio live. Catch us on YouTube, Bloomberg.com, and on Apple CarPlay and Android Auto with the Bloomberg Business app.